In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. But then God made man. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful. And so they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, "My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, "I will destroy man, whom I have created, from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing, and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them." Man, once again, became more evil than ever, so that many years later God opened the eyes of a man named John, known as John the Revelator. And he showed John many signs, wonders, and tragedies that would someday befall the earth. Then the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit.
This is about what's happening on top of a mountain in Mount Graham that might be connected to CERN that we'll talk about in the next program.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Opening doorway. They basically want the keys.
The portals to heaven, right?
They want the keys to the gateways. Any day now, the Pope is going to issue a rare encyclical. And for those that don't understand Catholicism, this is an authoritative document. And then there's times when he speaks as a pastor, but as an authority who tells the church there are certain things that morally they need to believe and practice. That's what an encyclical is. So he's writing an authoritative document, and it is on the environment. If you listen to what the Pope is saying, he's talking about human ecology, carbon footprints. He's using all this language out of the United Nations, which are Agenda 21 type issues. That's what he's talking about. This is the kind of stuff that would make people in blue eye pull guns out of their closets, right? Because they're going to start telling you how you can use your land, or if you even can own private property. They're already doing this in some states in the U.S. right now, where they're telling people they can't even collect rainwater to put in their cisterns for emergency backup water.
Do you know if the Vatican or the Pope has any thoughts on this? And this is your last question.
Well,
it's about CERN and about this Hadron collider.
Yeah, the Large Hadron Collider. The Vatican itself, so far as I know, has not offered like a particular statement about.
But you go the secret
about CERN. But a lot of some of their scientists, some of the ones working there, are Catholic priests. So they're very much connected to
working where?
Working at CERN.
These are
advanced degrees. They have degrees in physics, They're not just on the top of Mount Graham, an hour away from Tucson, Arizona. They're pretty much connected. Well, they're connected into our government. They're connected into everything. There is a representation.
Sort of like ISIS.
Yeah.
David Wilkerson left one last word you need to hear.
Okay, go.
Okay, and my preface into this is, do we need to fear this time that we're going into? And on the page following what I just read here, this is what Dave had to say. Are Christians going to suffer when God shakes this nation with earthquakes and economic disasters? Yes, there will be much suffering and hardship, but God will meet the necessities of his overcomers. He will comfort their hearts. And as they see these frightful things coming upon the nation and the world, they will be at peace, saying, God warned us. We are prepared. We knew it all along, and we are not afraid. Our blessed Savior will go with us through it all.
Just like every day, what is this, Tom? Every day is a prophetic day. Every day there's more.
Right.
It used to be the download that we're getting now would take 5 years. Now we're doing it in one day. I can't even wrap my mind around all of it. What's going on, do you think?
Well, absolutely. You know, in fact, I was telling one of the guys earlier that back in the day when I was a pastor in the 70s and 80s, if I wanted to talk about prophecy, the biggest challenge was there an earthquake cluster somewhere? Could I find something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Not today, brother, every single hour at every level of the road. Everything, whether it's signs in the heavens, whether it's what's happening in the Middle East, whether it's, God help us, the fact that we may turn our back on the nation of Israel, that then encourages the enemies
All right,
of the...
stop
in
right there.
itself, right
Tell
there.
me, this
That
is what's
in itself.
scaring the daylights out of me, and I'm not supposed to say that I know that, but it still scares the daylights out of me because I know anybody that turns... God says, you're poking my eye when you poke Israel. And I cannot believe that our country has turned against Israel, and they're saying that Israel is literally saying, we are going to stand alone. And now, what was that UN?
Yeah, well, right now we know that Obama is plotting to bypass Benjamin Netanyahu with UN action right now. Actually, I have an article here that says, from Tel Aviv to Turtle Bay, the White House hoped a new Israeli prime minister would resume peace talks with the Palestinians. With Netanyahu holding on, the administration is weighing a turn to the UN to help force a deal. You don't force Israel.
And our Congress is saying that the president is going to censor them. Basically, they'd take their power from them when it comes to Iran and Israel.
And the danger is the message that we are sending to all of the many enemies, including the Islamic State around Israel, is if you attack them, we may not come to their aid. And that has always been, for our whole lifetime, the one thing that has kept Russia and other people at different times from attacking Israel was the fear that the United States would step in, but we always had their back, right?
That's right.
And now the message that we're sending is very, very troubling. It's very disturbing. It could be what may cause some of what this brother's going to talk about that brings the judgment of God upon this nation. Because you turn your back against the apple of his eye. And yet, that too seems to be prophetic. It seems to be a step that we're intentionally making that will allow for the unfolding of what ultimately is going to wind up being the Battle of Armageddon, where God literally has to intervene against the armies of Antichrist from wiping out Israel.
Wow. This is amazing.
Here's a spooky thought when you think about what he just said. The nation of Israel, 1948, you come forward a generation. It brings you through the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019 in the Jewish calendar year. That's 7 years forward from 2012, where all of these, so I'm not saying that we're already in the tribulation period, but if something started in 2012 that is counting down to the end of that 70-year cycle from the formation of that nation, if that's what's happening, then we're already in things. And you know, the scholars, evangelical scholars, have always said the first 3.5 years you won't really know, right? You won't really know what's happening. It's when it gets to the middle of it, that's when the proverbial stuff hits the fan, right, and things start getting really, really bad. Is that what's happening? I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying that you can't look in any direction, that there aren't signs all over the world right now. But why did so many ancients, including pagans, thousands of years ago, they said beginning in the year 2012 through the year 2016, or if you count the nation of Israel through 2020. But they said it's going to start in the year 2012. When we were talking yesterday about all the prophets, including the Zohar, that saw that Rome would be destroyed at this time the false prophet and the Antichrist arrived, we didn't even talk about people like Jonathan Edwards, the old famous preacher, sinners in the hands of of an angry God, right?
Yes, oh my.
You're walking over hell like on plywood that's rotten and about to break through, right?
Right.
He's gonna get you into heaven one way or the other, scare the pants off of you.
Yeah.
He wrote letters, and we got copies of them. They're in this book right here. He wrote letters that were preserved by Yale University. Guess what he said? He said the Antichrist and the false prophet will appear between the years 2012 to 2016. He wrote this hundreds of years ago. It was his own conclusion, his own study of prophecy, and he connected it with Rome and said Rome will be destroyed. So,
Boy, if you missed yesterday's broadcast, I mean, you start tying all this together.
Yeah, well, he obviously wasn't reading the Maya, right?
Right, yeah.
That too is very interesting, by the way. And I'm on TV shows out there you can watch on YouTube, where I was on, with our friend Sid Roth and different people like that, right?
Yeah, I love Sid.
And I'm out there 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, saying the Maya never said the world is going to end. It's not what they said. I studied this at the academic level. I actually read the book of the Kumayel, the council book of the Yucatecan Maya, which had been written 500 years ago that was translated at the academic level. They said beginning in the year 2012, there will be a new and final world order. And into it is going to come two very powerful men. And it sounds like they're describing the false prophet and the Antichrist. But why is that interesting to me? I mean, I don't put stock in Mayan prophecy, right? The jaguar shaman, their most powerful shaman, was a convert to Christianity. As a result of the Mexican invasion, he got saved. And he was actually prophesying 500 years ago that beginning in the year 2012, this is going to be the final era of mankind. That's the prophecy. Not the world's going to end. It's going to give birth to a final world order. That's the actual Mayan prophecy.
Really?
Wow.
That came from a convert of Christianity who was literally prophesying about the future.
As we're taping this broadcast now at the Expo, this is the day of the
total solar eclipse.
And 9 other things that we've put together here that are happening. And I personally believe that a starting gun is going off now, today. I don't know if anything will even happen today, but I believe it's the beginning of really the end times. I really believe that and the Antichrist, I believe, as you said, I believe the Antichrist is on earth. And if you're not careful, if you believe what a lot of people have been saying, that we won't know who he is, Jesus says we will. Jesus said we'll see him. Do you believe that, or you can preach what you believe?
Yeah, well, here's something that goes along with what you're saying that we talked about yesterday. Remember the Zohar, the 700-year-old prophecy from the Orthodox priests who said that following the year 2012, Rome would be destroyed? Yeah. That's not the whole prophecy. Guess what else they said? They said in the year 2012, because this is in a subsection of the Zohar called Signs Heralding Mashiach. It's in the Be'era section of the Zohar. They said in the year 2012, the Messiah. Now, because they didn't accept Jesus as Messiah, guess who they're talking about? They say in 2012, the Messiah will make himself secretly known to the rabbis in Israel that are watching for him. And then over a period of a few years, he's going to start making himself known to all of the world. If that prophecy is true, and there are many, many highly placed rabbis that revere the Zohar, and they study it. So if somebody revealed himself to these priests in Israel, maybe that's why all of a sudden the altar has just been built and dedicated for the sacrifices. There's a new call for the building of a third temple. Even members of the Knesset now are talking about returning prayers to the Temple Mount and the possibility of building a temple. I think some highly placed people in Jerusalem think that their man is here. That's what I think.
Wow.
I think they believe it. And he's slowly going to start making
what about
himself
the
known to the
A
world.
108-year-old rabbi who left.
Yeah,
Right.
the other author that you had.
Yes,
Carl Gallups.
Yes,
Yeah.
Carl Gallups with
Right.
the book,
The rabbi
who
found
Messiah.
Could that
Right.
go along with what you're
It
saying?
possibly could, yeah.
I mean, his funeral
He's
was
the
attended
expert
like-
on that and not me.
But I'm telling you, it's coming together.
Yeah.
You know, if you're working a puzzle, you bring all the pieces together, and you put the final pieces in. It says, "Oh, that's what that was." It's happening right now. So there's so much in ancient prophecies of 2012 to what 2016, 2020.
Well, there were those that put a time frame of 2012 to 2016. I'm just now learning from my good brother here, who also starts with 2012, that there are additional
What do you think could happen in this year yet? I think this is an epic year. I think the blood moon year, I think this is an insane time that's going to, I believe today, I'm shaking. I'm like a man on something.
You are.
You know, I'm
You're
just on fire. I
Yeah.
just know today has begun the most epic period. That's the word God gave me for this year. It was epic. And I believe that the things that are happening, I believe this is an opening of them. So at 2015, where we are right now, what do you think? You've studied this. I think the final pope. Why do you think God would even bother with so much prophecy and so much signs and so much with the Pope? Why do you think the Pope is in the middle of all of this going on? And what could happen this year yet? What are our signs to look to see if this really is maybe the year of the final Pope?
Yeah. Well, there are certain things that I'm watching. One of them, of course, we brought up on yesterday's program, is the fact that you have a pope. He's the first one that's ever going to address a joint session of the United States government, or Congress. He also is going to speak in front of the United Nations, and I expect on subjects of environmentalism. He also, any day now, the Pope is going to issue a rare encyclical. And for those that don't understand Catholicism, this is an authoritative document. So the Pope can sometimes just offer an opinion about something, like he has said about the gay communities. And that he's not issuing doctrine, he's just giving you his opinion. There's other times when he speaks for the voice of God. And then there's times when he speaks as a pastor, but as an authority who tells the church there are certain things that morally they need to believe and practice. That's what an encyclical is. So he's writing an authoritative document, and it is on the environment. And it's supposed to come out any day now. It's supposed to come out in March. That was the original date they gave us. Wow. And we don't yet know exactly what this document is going to say. But I have a little bit of inside. Going through this whole thing with the prophecy of the popes, I wound up with some very conservative Catholics, priests, who are willing to talk to me off the record.
Wow.
Right? And there's a couple of things that they've said to watch for. One which could simply be part of the system of Antichrist is that if you listen to what the Pope is saying, he's talking about human ecology, carbon footprints. He's using all this language out of the United Nations, which are Agenda 21 type issues. That's what he's talking about. This is the kind of stuff that would make people in blue eye pull guns out of their closets, right? Because they're going to start telling you how you can use your land, or if you even can own private property. They're already doing this in some states in the U.S. right now, where they're telling people they can't even collect rainwater to put in their cisterns for emergency backup water.
California has 1 year of water, according to the headlines, left.
Right.
The farmers are now being paid. I read this last week. The farmers are being paid not to farm, basically, but they're selling their water rights to others. And so a big share of our vegetables and crops comes from California. California has a year of water left. And that's sort of what you're talking about.
Well, it's also prophecy. You know, a penny of what's the prophecy about a bushel of wheat and the cost of a day's wages?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, and so the people that are at this ready now, they're the people that are on the front line of what they ought to be doing and preparing for, because food is going to become astronomical. The stuff that you can buy right now, this long-term storage food kits and the dehydrated foods that you're selling, that stuff will be like gold in a few years from now. The value of it will be out of sight.
That's why, Tom.
A couple of years ago, I think, the first
And
time.
you brought us this book, The Final Pope is Here. You said it before he resigned. You wrote it before he resigned. You had no way of knowing without looking into prophetic words. So you put this huge book, and it all comes one after another. And then ISIS steps out, beheading people and speaking, we're going to destroy Rome. We're going to kill the Pope. What you've written in your book, and then the amazing stuff that's in this book, and I just noticed Chuck Missler has introduced this one. There's so much going on. Do you know what's going to happen in 2 days? Will the large Hadron, am I saying that right? Collider find a parallel universe? Particle smasher could become a gateway to alternate reality, says scientists. Stephen Hawking, do you know who Stephen Hawking is?
Yeah.
Supposed to be one of the most brilliant minds in the world. He says, Fox News quotes, God particle, they call it. They're trying to discover the particle of creation, what you're made up of. That'd be nice. Make a lorry. But the God particle, headline, God particle could destroy the universe. They're turning this machine on in 2 days from today. This is like the Tower of Babel for today. Do you think so?
Yeah, possibly could be.
It's the God trying to be God, trying to figure out the Big Bang Theory and create it again. This machine is the biggest machine ever in the history of the world. It's 17 miles, I believe, long. It's in Switzerland and France. And nobody knows about it hardly, because I ask Christians about it. I never heard of that before. My own staff, never heard of that before. Man, about 100 scientists, and we're going to talk about it in our next broadcast, Tom. I want you to comment on it. But we've talked so much today. There's signs. In the Revelation, it just says to look, doesn't it? I mean, if we're looking, we're going to be okay. I mean, he says, don't. And what I'm concerned about is churches have just closed the doors almost of their eyes, and they're not looking. They're not looking for him to return. You say, Jim, why do you bring us all this stuff? Because it all says, all of it, the end is here, the end is near, the king is coming back really soon, the stage is set for the final act of all mankind. It's real, I know it's real.
Amen.
All my doubts are settled. I know it's real. That's a song, by the way. Well, I can't wait till tomorrow's show. My Lord, I can't stand it. John Shorey has new revelation that's going to come to pass, he believes, before the last blood moon.
Yes.
John is the man from the desert. But boy, when he speaks, just opens his mouth and you better study. You say, well, I don't know if they're all right or not. You want to know if they're all right? Read this. That's called the Bible. If you don't know what I'm holding up. Match it all up with this. And don't let somebody take one thing out of context. You're listening to people who quote scriptures. That above all, God wants you to be rich, and that's the biggest lie on the face of this earth when it means money. We read in the Old Testament, He gives us power to get wealth. Dear God, that's a false statement. Because then we take it and say, oh, it's God who gives you power to become filthy rich with piles of money. Don't tell me that, because my grandma didn't have any money except a little bit to keep her going. If God gives you the power to get wealth, then the people in Las Vegas ought to be praying for the sick. If God gives them that power. You see, you don't look up that word, that in the Hebrew. Do you know what it means? Do you know the number one meaning of that is? Number one meaning of the word power to get wealth in the Bible, in there. The number one meaning is when you get to the promised land, remember it was God who helped you to win the wars. Mm-hmm. That's the number one. That's the number one. You know, when you study Hebrew and Greek, their meanings are so wide compared to our little narrow English words and King James words. Mm-hmm. So what God was saying, remember when you get to the promised land, it was God who give you power to get there, that you won the wars because of me. And when they stopped believing that, they got into trouble. And that's what America's doing. That's why we haven't won a war in a long time, since we took Bible and prayer out of the schools. Since we killed our babies. We have not won one war.
No.
You show me one. And quickly, the rest of that just means that word wealth there just means houses, vegetables, fruit, everything. All God was saying, when you get to the promised land, just remember, it was God who gave you all of it.
Right.
Including the promised land.
Yes.
But we've taken it and made a whole doctrine that God wants you to be wealthy. Mm-hmm. It's God who gives you power to get wealthy. That's a lie. Sure, He can bless you. Sure, He can give you. But if it's God who gives power to get wealthy, period, some of the richest people on earth who mock God, who are atheists, must be the spiritual people on earth then, because if that's the qualification. No, but I'm always saying there's another gospel people. And we better start going back to the Bible. The multitude of witness, the multitude of Scripture. Let Jesus open your eyes. I want to give out today this book, The Final Pope. I want you to see the whole prophecy, all the popes, all about this that was written, what was written. The final pope is here. Petrus Romanus. I'm not good at this. Help me, Tom.
You got it. Petrus Romanus.
And Exo Vaticana.
Mm-hmm.
This is about so much. Tell us quickly.
This is about what's happening on top of a mountain in Mount Graham that might be connected to CERN that we'll talk about in the next program.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Opening doorway. They basically want the keys.
The portals to heaven, right?
They want the keys to the gateways.
And most of it's all secret.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, he's unveiled a lot of secrets. This is a big book. Boy, it's exciting when you read the prophecies and read the word and then see it coming to pass as you're watching it.
Any day now, the Pope is going to issue a rare encyclical. And for those that don't understand Catholicism, this is an authoritative document. And then there's times when he speaks as a pastor, but as an authority who tells the church there are certain things that morally they need to believe and practice. That's what an encyclical is. So he's writing an authoritative document, and it is on the environment. If you listen to what the Pope is saying, he's talking about human ecology, carbon footprints. He's using all this language out of the United Nations, which are Agenda 21 type issues. That's what he's talking about. This is the kind of stuff that would make people in blue eye pull guns out of their closets, right? Because they're going to start telling you how you can use your land, or if you even can own private property. They're already doing this in some states in the U.S. right now, where they're telling people they can't even collect rainwater to put in their cisterns for emergency backup water.
And so what you're saying is taking place.
It is taking place, but I think when you look at the Pope creating an encyclical, there's several things happening here. One, you're getting a marriage of religion and politics, which we've always known has to happen for the arrival of the Antichrist system. But Agenda 21 stuff takes away property rights, tells you you can or can't own a car, tells you how many kids you would be allowed to have because we have to restrict the amount of your carbon footprint, all kinds of rules and regulations, which, by the way, the language was already written in the United Nations. It just hasn't been mandated to member states. But now you have the Pope, who is going to issue an encyclical that then has to be sent to every bishop and then goes to all 1.2 billion Catholics in the world to tell them that they now have a moral responsibility.
Oh.
So this gives all kinds of weight to the United Nations, and I don't know what the sensitivities are in our U.S. government to try to impose environmental restrictions. So that is one part of it. That's one part that could be a big piece of giving the machine gun to the United Nations to tell us what we can and cannot do in countries like the United States, which isn't going to sit well in Missouri, and that's why I live here, right?
Well, last week our government basically said they're going to turn Israel over to the UN.
No, that's right. Now, there's another...
That scares me, because I know as long as we stand up for Israel, God stands up for us.
Right.
And every time we've turned our back on Israel, tragedy, basic, heavy tragedies come to America.
Right. One other thing about this encyclical is whether or not it will include any kind of language that smacks of Gaia-ism. The idea that the earth is a living, sentient entity. This is real old paganism. And it comes from all of the oldest cultures of the world where they had the mother goddess worship. So Gaia, Diana, Hecate, all these mother goddesses that were worshipped, they were the earth. So you had God the Father is in heaven. He's going to make it rain on the earth and all that. But the earth is our mother. You know these old jokes, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. But that's where that comes from. And the Catholic Church has had sentimentalities about that for a long time. The way they have deified Mary, they've also kind of used some of that same language in referring to the earth. Now, if this encyclical, and I don't think it will, by the way, but if it includes that kind of information, it opens one other very important, and this was what my Catholic priest friend emailed me about. One other important thing, he says, watch to see if any of the language includes what is called many earths. Now, this would be foreign to almost everybody here, but deep theology at the Vatican, especially among the Opus Dei level theologians, is a theory they espouse to called many earths, which means they believe that there might be a coalition of worlds, all kinds of worlds like this one in other places, right? Where there are people like us living there. They have a relation. That's why they talk about our space brothers and all that other stuff. But here's if you want to understand many earths in kind of a very novel way, you remember the old classic movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
Scared the bejeebers out of me when I was a boy, right?
Yeah.
Big giant robot and guy coming down. But that classic movie, which was the best really, the threat was nuclear warfare. So they're coming down to tell us you've grown up enough now, but you're part of a coalition of worlds, and you didn't know it until now. And we've been watching you, and you finally grew up, so you're made nuclear warhead, and we're going to let you know that you can't take that outside of this planet. If you're going to expand these nuclear arms, we're going to toast you like a cinder, right? And so we get the warning. Well, that movie was remade last year. This time when the giant and the alien come down, we learn that humans are the germ. Humans, because of our impact on the environment. They had changed the whole storyline there. And this is what I was told. Watch to see if there's any of this many worlds stuff hidden in the language of this Pope's encyclical, because he is a many worlder, like most of the Jesuits are. This is crazy stuff, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, you want to cue the Twilight Zone theme music,
Right, exactly.
but these are some heavyweight people that believe this.
And this goes along with the observatory that you went to.
Right. Well,
That the Catholic Church owns the average person has no idea the Catholic Church owns the biggest observatory in the world, probably.
well, they are part of an observation group. Who owns the observatory on the Mount Graham is the Vatican, it's NASA, it's Arizona State University, it's astronomy groups all around the world. But it was the Vatican that got with NASA to go up, and they literally forced themselves onto the. They had to do an in run around environmental law to allow them to even build on that mountain. So somebody at the Vatican was deeply in the back pocket of the governor, because they bent rules that can't otherwise be bent to build on the top of that mountain. But after we came down, that's why there's a third book on this. Well, I guess I'll have to come back at some time, maybe.
Yes.
We'll talk
Yes.
about that.
Yeah.
The third book is called On the Path of the Immortals. Want to know why?
Why?
Because when we came down off the mountain, we thought we knew everything. Brother, we're patting ourselves on the back. We're King Kong and Godzilla all rolled into one. We got to go where no man has gone before. And then we get contacted by the Apache Nation. And one of them wants to let us know what we think we know about Mount Graham is only a very small part of the puzzle. In their belief system, Mount Graham is a gateway. It's a portal to another dimension. And that's why the Vatican wanted on the top of that mountain. And that's what they're observing in deep space. And Malachi Martin, remember in 1979, Art Bell's interviewing Father Malachi Martin, an insider of insider from the Vatican. And he says, Father, why did the Vatican force its way onto a mountain in Arizona, and why are they studying deep space? You know what his answer was? He said, because at the highest levels of the Vatican government, they know what is approaching the earth, and that it will be of the utmost importance in coming years. And furthermore, he put a 10-year timeline on it, and 10 years to the date, the Vatican called together an astronomy study week at the Pontifical Academy in Rome, the Pope's scientists, right? And they came together for one reason, to study the detection of alien life and its impact on religion and society. And 90 days later, when the oldest scientific body in the world, the Royal Society, came together, they came together for exactly the same reason, the detection of alien intelligence and the impact on society. These are the brainiest people in the world that came together right when Father Martin said this would become of importance. So something right now is sitting there. Something is sitting there. They think they have knowledge. In fact, the Lucifer device that they use on the top of Mount Graham.
That's what they call it.
Yeah. Is infrared.
Why would they name it Lucifer? That's pretty strange.
Yeah. Yeah, why would they? Is it because they think they titled it something they're using it to observe? Do they think they know something is coming?
This year, 2015, this is an epic day today. We're at the equinox. We're halfway through this year. What do you think from all these prophecies you've studied, of the prophecy of the Pope, will take place this year, perhaps in 2015? Just to go through it again, just what should we look to see now, so people, you know, I'm supposed to be a teacher, but that's why I repeat everything all the time, because I want people to learn. But could you give us a few things?
Well, there's so much. First of all, we started out talking yesterday about the Islamic State. They definitely are trying to draw the army of Rome. That's exactly what they want. Now, they're trying to draw us down into Dabiq. We talked about all of that yesterday. And for people, you know, people look at Dabiq and they say, well, why in the world would anybody fight a battle there? It's like, a bunch of, going to bomb some cows? It's just a bunch of land. There's about 3,000 people that live there. But think of it as the Islamic version of Megiddo. Because Megiddo also doesn't have any, you know, great international geopolitical importance about it. It's maybe a tourist trap or something. And yet prophecy tells us that that is exactly where this final battle is going to wind up, so that blood flows to a horse's bridle. This is a horrific war, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Dabiq is the Islamic version of Megiddo. It doesn't have to be a place. In fact, it's probably more important that it's not a well-populated area because of the trap they can set for those that they draw down there. I think they're going to do a bunch of atrocious things, continue to do a bunch of atrocious things. When this coalition army comes together, they're probably all going to go to Dabiq to draw us down there. And then what? A nuke? Biological warfare? They are preparing something because this is what they believe. And then the earth really is going to rattle. That other brother that wrote about the fifth trumpet
Yes,
and
Carl
the sixth trumpet, Carl Gallup,
Yeah.
that you had on the show this
Yes,
week.
yes.
Think about what he is talking about, where the Islamic nation has centered around the great Euphrates River. The way that river runs from Turkey down through Syria, Iraq, it's literally their stomping grounds. And yet read what the Bible says is going to happen there when the trumpet sounds and these powerful angels come up out of the ground. See, they're expecting the Mahdi to come out of the ground. I think something is going to come out of the ground. They're going to come up out, and it says they're going to wipe out 1/3 of humanity, these powerful angels. We are literally marching right now on top of the very area that the Bible tells us the angels that have been bound in the great river Euphrates, preserved for this hour, are going to come out, and 1/3 of humanity is going to be wiped out.
Wow. And why would the Pope want to create rules for war when those who have vowed to destroy them and us, the United States, Israel, the Vatican, whatever, they don't keep the rules? Does anybody ever get it? That's why Congress does not want to make a deal with Iran. It's simple. That's as simple. Iran's not going to keep a deal. The Bible says, you got to read the Bible once in a while. The Bible says they're going to sit around tables and tell lies. They're making deals. They're making agreements. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's time. I got one more question, and John's coming on.
Okay.
I'm biting at the bit.
Can't wait. It's something, it's called CERN. It makes me very concerned. CERN. The Hadron, I think it's pronounced, Hadron Collider. Okay? It's turned on 2 days from today, so when you watch the show, it's already on, unless they have a breakdown. Do you want to tell the people what it is? I have pictures. There's one. There it is on the screen.
Yeah.
This is the biggest machine in the world. How many until today did not know about this? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Come on. That's almost 100%. 99% of this audience never heard of this. This is the biggest machine ever made in the world in history. I believe it's 17 miles long. It's in France and Switzerland. If you see a map, it's the map, it's a circle.
It would be almost 5 miles across.
And the reason they buried it under the ground is because they might have an oops. And you know, back when we were testing nuclear warheads, we'd take them deep down underneath the earth because you wouldn't want to blow one of these up on the surface of the earth, right?
Right.
I'm curious how they got permission to dig that many miles under France and under Switzerland. And this is what the headline, I don't know if it's just this week, I think. This is the headline. Stephen Hawking, he called the God particle could destroy the universe. He keeps warning. He's supposed to be one of the most brilliant minds ever in history. And he keeps warning that this, he calls it God particles. Do you understand this at all?
Well,
I don't.
The Higgs boson is traditionally called the God particle, and part of what they want to do with the collider, it's not the only thing they're doing there, is they want to see if they can discover the Higgs boson or the God particle. Essentially, we Christians would say they're looking for how God holds everything together. That's why they call it the God particle.
Well, I read where it's what you're made up of. And what all matter, I guess, is
Well,
made
well,
up of.
that's exactly right. It's what we're made up of. It's also what's holding us together. They're trying to find Jesus, but they don't want to find Jesus. So they're trying to find what is it that holds all matter together. That's one of the things they're looking for. What CERN does, that big circle, it accelerates particles in that big circle around and around and around and around until they're traveling at just enormous velocity, and then they collide these particles together. And in that moment, it creates a moment that they think is kind of how the Big Bang started the whole universe. That's the whole purpose behind it. However, they also believe that there are parallel realities around us, other dimensions, and there could be other intelligence there. Another thing we Christians already know, right? Why not just come and ask us? You don't need to build a collider. However, there's a reason God put them on the other side of that veil, and you might not want to open the door.
No.
And here's the thing. Their own director of CERN has gave interviews to the British press in which he admits that's what they're trying to do. They want to open a door to another dimension. And he said, when we open this door, he said, something might come through it into our reality, or he said, we might send something through it into their reality. You can look that up. It's in the British press. Where the CERN was built, this is St. Genus Powili. That's the name of the township. But in ancient days, guess what it was called? It was called Apolliacum. It was literally a temple to the god Apollo because they believed that's the gateway to the underworld.
Oh.
I saw a goddess. And I was looking at all these pictures. That's her.
Shiva. Actually, they built. They have the god, the Hindu god of destruction that destroys at the molecular level, is right out in front of the offices of CERN, and it's dedicated to Shiva.
I'm going to put it on the screen. You'll show it.
It's so
because I've seen it, and I said,
crazy.
"This is a false god." What in? I couldn't find anything about it because I need to get some books and read a little bit more. But you go online and type in the Hadron, or you can actually type in CERN. CERN comes up with all of it as well. And all the pictures, it's the most beautiful. I mean, it's like Satan. It's the most beautiful thing. I mean, for a guy, it's like the biggest Tinker Toys in the world. I mean, it's beyond the blues, the reds, the colors in this thing. And yet, there's a goddess at the offices, where they go to work there, that build this thing. And you say, well, it's not important for us to know. It's time for the church to stop glorifying ignorance.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
That's good.
He said, I don't want that day to come upon you unaware.
Yeah.
Tom, help me out. You have a brilliant mind.
Oh, my goodness.
You have an inquiring mind, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I have a dangerous mind.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Just get in trouble all the time.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything else about that? Because I got
just-
one last question, then we're going
okay,
to...
just that's it, that it's named after Apolliacum, the gateway to the god Apollo. But what does the book of Revelation say? Yeah, absolutely, that an angel comes down with a key to the bottomless pit and opens that gateway. And guess who is the god down in there? The king over the bottomless pit, Apollyon, Abaddon, the king of the bottomless pit. And we're trying right there to open a
you're
gateway
smart, lady. Woo.
that is, yeah.
The front row lady.
Yeah,
is telling us.
I'll get her to make some notes for me. I'll use them next time.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
This
So-
is shocking. God gave me this yesterday, said, I want you to talk about this, and ask Tom. I didn't know if Tom knew a thing about it. But God said, the people need to know.
Right.
Jim, can I say one comment here?
And I knew,
Just
John,
hit
because
me.
you know what's going on.
Well,
Go ahead.
you know, when we was talking back there, I said, you know, it sounds to me like you're describing they're trying to open the door to the gate to hell.
Right.
Okay? Well, here's the thought. God literally sealed and locked demons into the earth that would not be released until the last days. And now we have evidence that man is the one that's trying to open the door and release them.
Right. Right.
It's really crazy. It's right there in Revelation 9.
You know,
right?
if
There
I
it
was a
is.
teenager, I would really be excited about this. because they love supernatural. They love all the drama.
Sasha's over here
sci-fi.
going crazy.
I really am.
She's
Honestly,
like this.
I'm listening to this conversation and I'm taking notes. Like my format is completely full. But as you're talking about the bottomless pit, I'm like, wait, we just learned this yesterday. I'm flipping to Revelation 9, reading along with what you're teaching. You're not even teaching from the Bible per se, but you're just teaching what they're doing. And I'm reading it out of my Bible, literally. This is what we talk about every day on the show when we say we're living in the Revelation times. And when you can open your Bible, read the news, and they go parallel together, these are the times we're living in.
That's right.
If you hear
That's
churches and preachers say to you one more time, we don't understand Revelation, or we don't understand Ezekiel, tell them we're learning. God's revealing.
Really
I'm tired of the cop-out. Everything in the Bible is to be revealed. You know what revelation means? Take the cover off. Unveiling. It's revelation. It's to be revealing. God don't want you dumb. God doesn't want, he said, I'm not coming to you unaware. I don't want that day to come upon you unaware. But we have been dumbed down because too many leaders have said, oh, you don't need to bother with that. Oh, you're going out. How come Jesus doesn't say you're going out before this all happens? And what are you going to do if the things start shaking? What are you going to do if the earthquakes that we read about and that we're hearing about that are going to, like dominoes, set one right off after another, Tom? You need to do a book on it if you haven't.
Well, I think he already did.
About the dominoes, right? Because this is what this kind of machine literally could do as well. And when the Bible talks about when these things start happening, that the earth, the volcanoes will go off, the earthquakes will go off. Mm-hmm. This is totally.